Hello, everyone. Welcome to what week are we in? Week 9? Yes. Podcast 9. Not week 9, podcast 9. So last time we recorded was 2 weeks ago, but we are back. Uni is done, and we're here. How you feeling, Brock?
Yeah, not too bad. It's good to be back on the podcast and back on the grind, and certainly grateful uni's over for another semester. So
Yeah.
positives all around.
Hell yes. 100%. Back on the hustle.
Yes, the hustle is real. Once, as Ethan said, we apologise for missing last week's podcast, but there was plenty going on for the both of us with exams and everything. But yes, here we are.
Here we are. So we'll just drop a massive long one today and keep you guys fed for many a long time.
Yes, and there's first podcast we've done in person. We're here together. We can almost hold hands. So it's very enjoyable.
It is. It actually is. It's a much more different experience recording in person compared to recording over Messenger. So
yeah, and sitting in your room on your own compared to actually feeling like you're achieving something in a way. I don't know.
Nah, you're
bit
right.
wacky.
It sounds so lonely when you say sitting in your room. It's like we sit in our room for like an hour and a half just talking sport.
Yeah,
But it's whatever.
to a person across the internet, do they really exist? They might be a scam.
That's the power. That's the power of the internet. But
It's a beautiful place.
one thing we did miss, recapping, was the NRL Grand Final.
Yes, that's a huge monumental time that's drawn us past from missing a week, but we're here to give our perspectives on what was.
I mean, honestly, I think it was a good game. Like, I can't complain. I mean, at the time I was barracking for the Raiders really hard, so the whole 6 again thing with the ref sucked. But, I mean, I don't know. It's whatever. Like, he made the right call, and I don't know if it's in the rule book or not. I haven't really cared about it that much. But at the end of the day, I just feel like you have to play to the whistle, and I don't think it's fair to say, I feel like it should have been a stoppage in play, results in a turnover, and even if that meant a try, then the refs just have to live with the fact that they got it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair for the players to, here's 6 again, they get one more tackle and then they turn it on. I don't know. It's iffy. Like, if it was in rugby, I guess, I'm trying to compare it to rugby, and I feel like there'd be a turnover a lot quicker. Like, you're not guaranteed a try that close to the try line.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's rough.
Well, I think we probably rewind a little bit and we go from the start, because there was a few calls that a lot of people aren't happy with and fell all Roosters' way. And I feel like I had a different opinion about everything and thought this was a very fair game, and some of the calls didn't seem like they were fair, but all had the right result, like kicking off at the start, and they got the falcon from the trainer went to a scrum, and everyone was up in arms because it was potentially going to be a Raiders try if he's not there, and whoever it was can go through and score because there's no one around. But the circumstance sucked for Raiders there. But once again, you go back to the rule book, and if it hits a trainer and so on, it goes back to the attacking team. And it sucks that Roosters are kicking the ball away, but they're the attacking team, so they get the scrum. And it's a sucky call, but it's the right call once again. Like, you can't fault for the refs by playing to the playbook and not with their hearts and what seemed to make sense.
Yeah. No, you're right. I have no problem with the refs doing that. It's just, I find the trainer on the field the whole time stupid. I know it's like a tactic in league or whatever. Like, I don't know. They seem to use him as an extra fullback, but I mean, I just hate,
Great defense from the trainer this last week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just annoys me that you have a bunch of professional athletes that need 2 refs and a trainer on the field the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, and they've already started to cut back on the trainer. Like, you only go back a few years ago, and now they're not allowed to be on the field on the 5th and last because Alfie Langer was pretty much telling the Broncos how to play football. And let's say Broncos have taken a big dip since then.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, in all honesty, there's no real reason for the trainer to be on the field permanently unless someone gets injured and they run onto the field. But at the same time, it's like the trainer's usually out of the way. Like, this is the first big incident we've really seen with the trainer being an issue. Majority of the time, it's fine them sitting behind and they don't get in the way ever.
No.
Like, this is my first incident of seeing it happening.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. This is my first instance too, but I mean, yeah.
It's kind of sucky. Like you said, it's like, do they really need a trainer sitting behind them in case of an injury or someone gets thirsty or something? Like, I don't know. I think it's just easier as professional athletes that they don't have to drag themselves to the sideline or,
yeah, true.
you know, try and get some medical attention from the sideline. Like, they've just got a trainer behind them that can start to, even if it's just like cramps, stretch them out or, you know, do something minor until, you know, someone can actually do something about it. But I don't know, does the trainer have some communication to the sideline or something to even, you know, help a player if he's hurt or anything, get someone over? Or is everyone just shouting out to the sideline anyway?
I feel...
Because if that's the circumstance, the trainer's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. They'd have to have a mic, don't they? They have the ones where it's like strapped into their ear, isn't it? I don't know.
You know as well as me.
I really don't know. But yeah, I agree. I feel like you're not a player. Just stay off the field, please.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know it was and it's a freak accident, it's whatever. And like, even if, say, the Raiders score off that, like the trainer's not there, the Raiders score, there's no saying that completely changes the outcome of the game. You know what I mean?
There's no way it does that because Roosters are a lot more fired up to now make a comeback, or he's a little bit of a distance away, and I'm not too sure who it was, but there was one player that was like going to come across the field to potentially stop the Raiders, and you don't know what's going to happen. And that's the thing. It's like, what happens if he just drops the ball when he tries to pick it up? Like, you see that happen quite often, or someone comes across and tackles him and he drops the ball, or, you know, there's so many different circumstances that can happen. You can't just go, yeah, that's going to be a try 100%. And I think moving on to another call that people weren't happy with, same thing goes for the penalty try that everyone wanted on Papali, like when Cronk took him out early without the ball. Once again, I thought that was the right decision.
Did they call it a penalty try?
No, they didn't call it a penalty try, but everyone's up in arms that it should have been.
Yeah, I remember in that one. I don't know. I was a bit iffy. I was backing for the Raiders, so I wasn't really neutral about it. But I mean, yeah, I don't think it was that bad.
No, it's fair enough that, you know, it's a professional foul, and I don't think that was Cronk's intention. I think he was just trying to tackle him as soon as he got the ball. Yeah. But he's tackled him without the ball. He's got a sin bin. That's fair enough. And I think I look in a lot of circumstances where everyone's like, if Raiders had this opportunity or got this penalty, they would have went over. It's like they spent 10 minutes with a man down on Roosters and couldn't score points besides the penalty. So it's not like if they had one more attempt and like even going into the six again, that they were going to score anyway. But I think just quickly back to the whole call for penalty try, you've got no guarantee once again that Papali's going to catch that ball or going to go over, or Cronk knocks the ball out as he's diving for a try. Like, Tedesco was coming across, and I doubt he's going to stop Papali, but he's meant to be Dally M best player in NRL, so surely he's capable of that.
Yeah.
So once again, it's just not a guaranteed circumstance, and I felt like the right call was made.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think like, you have to think about it, like, if Papali gets that ball, I don't know, half a second earlier, and Cronk and Tedesco half a second later coming across, like, how far out was he? He was like 5 meters out, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he had two guys closing in. I think there was Roosters forwards coming from around the back anyway.
Coming across, and I don't think it would have come down to Cronk or Tedesco to stop him. But if he receives that ball half a second earlier, Cronk's already there and already threw him enough that he couldn't catch the ball. So could he have just thrown him off balance enough time for Tedesco or someone to come across? I think potentially yes, but I think also it comes down to after the week before Papali had his huge run and try that sealed Raiders in the grand final. Everyone's like, Papali's a monster of a man and no one can stop him, which is true in 99% of circumstances, but that's 99%.
Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, like you said before, with the fact that the Raiders were down on the try line attacking so much, they gave everything and they still couldn't score. I think that's why the Roosters won the premiership, is somehow they stopped them a man down, like just constantly attacking.
It's the fact that Roosters are the best defense in the league, and that's why they won. It wasn't down to opportunities or anything that Raiders were just cheated out of it. Raiders had the ball for like 70% of the game and were pretty much on the Roosters' line and struggled to get over when they had the opportunity.
And that's what hurts so much as a fan is when you're watching the Raiders and they have so much ball and they look threatening. They look like they could have scored on nearly like every attempt when they were in the Roosters 30 even. But then, you know, Tedesco and Latrell just have that X factor and that's just what come alive and then they go and score. And that was heartbreaking to see, but I mean, it's whatever. I think the Raiders have a squad that can still contest. I think if they keep the same, I don't know, defensive principles, maybe sharpen up a bit on attack, I don't know, maybe they can. I think, like you said, going into the game and the weeks before, they are a collection of players. It's not like one or two really, really good players and then a decent enough squad. Like, I think they need to figure out who their it guy is.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know. I feel like if your it guy is Jack Whiten, I feel like that's dangerous in a way. Like in the same way that if your best player in Union is your number 10, like I feel like it's easy to shut you down. I feel like they need a centre. They need Leilua or Papali's already stepped up, but they need Leilua or I don't know, Croker to turn into more of an offensive weapon.
Well, from what I've heard from a lot of people that are Raiders supporters, they've got George Williams from England, another English player, coming in this year who I haven't actually watched anything of him, but is supposedly the best player in England.
Shit.
So he's coming in for the halves and he'll be replacing Aiden Caesar, who has been needed to be replaced for many years, in my opinion.
Did he do anything? Just side note, did Aiden Caesar do anything in that game against the Roosters?
He didn't do anything special, but he didn't make that many mistakes, which I'm used to seeing from him. He's really bad for the mistakes, and he's just not a trustworthy player, I guess, and that's the opposite of what you want, especially in a grand final. And I think that's probably the biggest issue with Raiders, although it does provide unpredictability. They have people like Leilua and Caesar who are just prone to making stupid errors.
Exactly.
And that obviously they were in the grand final, so it hasn't let them down that much this season, but previous seasons it has, and is the reason why they're not making top 4 consistently. But obviously a few changes coming for the team, and hopefully it works for the positive and they can keep this going. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think Rapana leaves or do you reckon he stays? Because I know he said he wants to stay, but he never was at the when the Raiders got back to Canberra for their fan day. He wasn't there. I don't know. There's rumours he's going to go to Japanese rugby, but I mean, him and Caesar leaving, they're already bringing in someone to replace Caesar. That frees up a fair bit of cap to, I don't know, go and look at, I don't know, Jordan Rapana's pretty hard to replace himself, but they do have Simonson or Simonson, how do you say it?
Yeah, Simonson.
Do you reckon they go out and get an X Factor or?
I think I don't think they have to. At the end of the day, I feel like it's a winger, and Rapana this season didn't do it. I think like he carried so many injuries, and the truth is he's probably had a tough season of just rehab and injuries continuously that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's Japanese rugby, but I wouldn't even be surprised if he went and played for like the Warriors and just went back home and played there and finished his career there. But I don't know, I could easily see him there for another year, but I feel like that's potentially all you get out of him. But I think I was just going to quickly come back to the fact that there's so many good up-and-coming wingers that, like, every year there's a new winger we've never heard of that is so good. And that was the same as Kotrick in his debut year. Like, he was phenomenal, came out of nowhere and gave the Raiders so much fire and was a really quality player. And, you know, you just find some young winger again who's dominating whatever league they're in, and you've got a replacement. Like we're saying, their issue is in the centres and in the halves, not their wings.
Yep.
So I think I don't know what type of contract he's on, but if it's expensive, I'd definitely say let him go and pick up someone cheap and, you know, just keep building the team. And I think even Nicole Chance has got, like, he signed a contract again, and I think it was only like $400,000 or something, which is severely below what I expected from him. Like, don't get me wrong, he's only performed for one season and been good for one season, but he dominated, and took the Raiders team to a whole new level.
Yeah. Chance is weird because, like, I think I started watching the Raiders after he'd blown up, like after he was having those, like, 220-meter monster games where he was tearing off for, like, I don't know, 60-meter runs or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's, like, deceptively good because when I watched him in the final, I was like, oh, Chance isn't doing anything that special. But you realize that, like, he beats one guy, he beats the first guy to him, and then goes another 10 meters, and you don't think it's a big run, but then you look at the end of the game, and he's got, like, 250 run meters.
Yep.
And it's like, he's just deceptively good. And I don't know, I think Caesar's still contracted next year for the Raiders. Do you keep him in case the Williams guy fails?
No, because I don't think anyone could be much worse than Caesar, to be honest.
Really?
But is Caesar off to Broncos?
Is he? I have no idea.
They're the rumours anyway that's going around. I don't think it's been confirmed. I think Broncos are just desperately in search of another half. Like Brady Croft's in talks, which I think is fantastic because I don't know why the Storm are getting rid of him. And, you know, Caesar, I don't think really adds anything, but Broncos are just in huge turmoil that I think they feel like anything's better than what they've currently got.
Yeah, I think Broncos are just going to turn into Man United. Just this old club with history that just, I don't know, strikes out. Has money in all the years where the next year the market is 1,000 times better, but they've got everyone contracted and then, I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, just to finish up on the Raiders game, I think it was a good game. I think, you know, watching it, I felt like the Raiders should have won. The 6 again shit sucked, but at the end of the day, Roosters defended better.
We haven't really spoken about the whole 6 again. Where do you stand with that? I don't know if anyone's seen the Facebook comments, so we have differing opinions unless things have changed since then.
It has. Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's whatever. Like, I got to think about what I want to say. It's like, I'm over it now. Like, you know, like in the heat of the moment, it was annoying because we didn't have all the angles of it. We didn't have like all the commentators there. Everyone that was covering it was talking about how it was bullshit and lost the Raiders the final. Yeah. So that's all you're hearing. We didn't get the camera angle of the Raiders guy touching it until the next day or 2 days later so that they could beat the absolute shit out of the Raiders getting robbed.
Yep.
Like all the media and stuff. And I mean, at the end of the day, like Raiders lost because they couldn't get it done against. Cooper Cronk got sent off for that tackle on Papali, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was 10 minutes off there.
Really, the Raiders lost because they couldn't score when Roosters were down a man. And that's just the end of it. And then, you know, Latrell and Tedesco made something out of nothing.
Yeah, like I looked at it and when the ref waved 6 again, I was there with the family and I was just like, that's a joke. That's not 6 again. Like that's come off the Raiders player. So when it's gone up and he's gotten tackled, it was like, you know, that's an iffy call. Like I thought they called 6 again, but that's the right call. And, you know, they look back now and it's like they called the 6 again and then the ref screamed apparently 4 times, like fifth and last, which sucks. But the player went down before Jack Wyden and offloaded the ball. And if he knew it was 6 again, I doubt he's doing that again. So the player that offloaded that ball, I'm assuming knew it was 5th again.
Yeah,
like
true.
5th and last.
True.
Tried to keep the play alive because I don't see why he would if it's the first tackle. And then Jack Wyden's just taken in, whether he didn't know or whether he's trying to milk a situation, I don't know. I'm assuming that he just didn't know. But it seemed like half the players on the field knew and half the players didn't. But I think at the end of the day, what I come back to isn't the ref changing the decision. It's the fact that the ref made the right decision. Like, it should have still been 5th and last because it didn't touch a Roosters player. And then I think, like we said, the suckiest thing is Roosters went straight up the other end of the field for it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If they hadn't have done that, it just had to kept playing. And, you know, Roosters went up, kicked the ball away, and Raiders came back again. There probably wouldn't be so many issues, but the fact that Roosters scored off the very next play hurts.
It does.
Hurts big time.
And it sucked the energy out of the Raiders. And, I mean, I don't know, the problem with the Raiders was, like, they never got complacent when they were attacking. They just couldn't score for some reason.
Yeah. Roosters just the best defense and, you know, millions over the salary cap.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. It's ridiculous. But it's just like the Raiders didn't waste any possessions. They Like, they didn't play stupid. They just lost because they couldn't score somehow. And I think that's what makes the 6 again thing even harder for a Raiders fan who's just sat through that and been like, why didn't we win? Oh, it's got to be this. Because you're looking at it like it's an iffy call. All you're hearing is an iffy call. But yeah, now I've seen all the other stuff. It's changed. I still don't like the 2 ref thing in the NRL. I think I like it when 1 ref goes your way and stuff, but I still think, like, I get why they did it because 2 refs can cover a lot more than what 1 ref can, but, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the whole 2 ref thing.
Yeah, I understand it. I guess just some sports it works. Like, you look at NFL and, you know, I guess it's a lot more stop and start, so you can change the call in the heat of the moment or review it and stuff. So I think it's a bit different, but they make it work with 4 refs essentially on the field or sidelines, you know, and it works there. But for NRL, I don't know, you see positives and negatives. I don't think it hurts. I think hopefully the more refs are on the field, the more calls are actually going to be made correctly. I feel like that's what I hope for. And once again, same to the first scenario, it's not very often you see 2 refs with differing opinions on a situation and, you know, making different calls or so on and so forth. So I feel like majority of the time it's not going to hurt. It's more so, I think, the fact that everyone's blaming the refs and is like, why do we need 2 refs when they're still making the wrong calls?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the biggest issue, and there's still wrong calls being made, and there's, you know, 2 refs on the field and there's 2 sideline people who are still making the wrong calls. And yeah, it's definitely iffy, and there's so much tension built for the refs now. It's going to be interesting what happens for the next season.
It will be. I must say though, the refs, aside from the 6 again controversy, which looking back now isn't that controversial, like they refed a really good game. And the bunker did well too to stay out of it and stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot that went by that I think probably should have got pulled back. But that was something I think everyone had prepared for because it's a grand final, it's a state of origin. Any of those scenarios, the refs just let everything go. And it's actually bad to watch because you see people laying all over each other and it's like the refs are kind of like, oh, we're not going to penalise it because it's just something minor. Like, he'll get off eventually in a way. So, you know, there's some really easy calls that get missed just because the refs want to make the game flow, which I don't know, personally I don't agree with. You still need to ref to the rule book, and you know, unfortunately you're going to get calls that are going to slow down the game, but that's the game. Like, you can't change that.
No, you can't. I mean, I don't know, have you got any other thoughts on the league? Because I might switch into the rugby with the team and the rugby.
I was just, you know, following on with the salary cap thing. Have you heard who Roosters are signing now? Cooper Cronk's retired. So there's talks now that Cooper Cronk has retired. I can't actually find the source. It was there somewhere. I don't know if I saw it on Facebook or what. But now that Cooper Cronk's retiring, Roosters have found enough cap space to bring in Nicole Chance, Cameron Munster, Daly Cherry Evans. And Damien Cook, I think, is now the new 9. And yeah, there's plenty of room there, and it's definitely not down to a second book. But, you know, Roosters aren't too worried about next season with all these new signings coming in. Oh, Jack Wyden's coming too, so sorry, Raiders fans.
Was that the Batuta article? Was that where you seen it? Batuta
I'm not too sure where I saw it, actually. I just tried to find it.
That was so good. They were on fire after that game. They had another article. You know what Batuta is, eh?
Yeah.
They had another article that was like, Roosters executives rushed to shred documents in aftermath of premiership win. Yeah. And then like the photo was this guy running to like a paper shredder, and then the like little caption of the article was like go 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 was all that was heard from upstairs at the Roosters clubhouse. So they've been on fire recently with everything.
Off they went, shred and burn the evidence.
No, we're over the cap. I can't wait until we have the same thing that happened to Storm. Was the other one that got in trouble.
Yeah, Storm's the most recent one. I think the only other ones that, you know, got premierships taken off them and etc. was like the Bulldogs years and years ago. But what Storm got 2 premierships taken off them, and it's funny, even like Cooper Cronk, when he's gone for his retirement and they come up with stats and stuff, it still only says he won like 3 premierships versus like the 5 I think it was that he should have won, or maybe it was 4 and the 6 he should have won. So it's funny that, you know, they take that out on the players too, I guess, but, you know.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Hopefully he doesn't have the most recent 2 stripped off him as well. You know, as much as it's like, for me, don't necessarily like Roosters, kind of dislike Roosters, it's like, I still don't want to see their premierships taken off them. As, you know, I'm pretty all for that they're over the salary cap, but it's like they haven't been found for it and they're the best team performing in the comp. So
yeah, exactly.
Can't really argue with the evidence.
Yeah, there's not much you can do about it. But I think, like I said, I think looking back, I was happy with the game. I like the way that the refs situationally ref it in the NRL. I know it's bullshit and it's not by the rule book, but I think you need to let games like that go because there's extra emotions. There's that extra edge that, you know, everyone that's played in a grand final will know, like, you lift and, you know, you're a bit more testosterone and you're going to put on a dirtier shot and you're going to, you know, lay over the opposition. So I think it's good to let it go because a stop-start game would have been annoying and everyone would have complained about it. But they did ref a good game. I think I'm still iffy on how they handled the 6 again thing at the time, like how they handled it in game, but it was the right call. And at the end of the day, Raiders just lost because they couldn't score against the Roosters.
Yep.
But speaking to TMOs and shit, the ones in the rugby have been shocking, I must say. There was the most recent game that I can remember that I was properly pissed off about was Wales playing Fiji, which obviously implicates us because we lost to Wales. If Fiji had won that game, we potentially go through as top of the pool. But we would have. Like, Fiji should have won against Wales. Wales is, like I said to you before we started recording, Wales, in my opinion, is the worst team in the quarterfinals.
Okay.
I think they beat us.
It's probably not wrong.
I mean, they beat us on a Samu Karevi call. They kick a penalty off that and then get the penalty off the... What did they get? It was like a penalty and then they got a try somehow on an intercept that was offside, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was a few very iffy calls that none of them got checked for or anything like that.
Exactly.
Like the interception. I think a few people have believed they've proven that it was onside, but the fact that he looked so offside and it didn't even get checked was like confusing.
That's the problem. They spent 7 minutes. They literally spent 5 minutes of dead time with the clock paused, looking at Samu Karevi's like bump off and deeming that a penalty. But then Reece Williams looks like, I admit it probably was great line speed. But at the end of the day, you have to think, if Samu Karevi doesn't get penalised there, like we had started shit, we were down 13, then we'd come tearing back into the game. If Samu doesn't get penalised for that, we go right down the other side of the field, they don't score, and then there's no reason for us to kick it off to them and then throw an intercept. And, you know, and we go into the sheds, even if we don't score again, we go into the sheds 13-8 at half-time, not 23-8.
We had so much momentum built and we looked on fire.
And the disappointing thing about Wales is the Wallabies are a terrible half-time adjustment team. Like, we are shocking. I think we've established 2 game plans this World Cup, but they're both as dreadful as each other. And, like, we come out from half-time and we scored, what was it? I think it was, like, we scored, 20 points or something, and Wales still only scored 6 in the second half.
Yeah, it was, like, 50.
And, I mean, France isn't exactly one of the most elite teams in the world, but they beat Argentina in the first game of their pool, pulled it off against Argentina, and then, you know, looked good against the US, and that's where I seen them. Their number 10 is so crafty. I think at the end of the day, I can't wait for Wales to be exposed because, I mean, the calls in the Fiji game, I can't remember them because I can't remember them exactly, but there was a Fijian clear out a Welsh guy, and this Welsh guy is on the attacking team. Fiji's trying to clear him out past the ball, and this Welsh guy is on his feet, but he's lying on the rock. Like, he's that low, like he's supporting his own body weight, but he's that low. The Fijian guy comes in and clips him on the shoulder blade, like smashes him shoulder charge into shoulder blade. There's no other way you can clear out in that instance. Anyway, the play continues. A minute and a half later, Ben Skeen, the TMO, pulls it back to look at this instance, and the ball that was like Fiji's when they were starting to get momentum, same thing happens. He turns it back to Wales. Fiji gets a yellow, and then I think Wales scored in the next few minutes.
Wow.
And I mean, we've got Ben Skeen, and Roman Gaisars is the referee this weekend for us, and Ben Skeen is the TMO. Yep. So it's going to be a fucking terrible game because those two just pull everything up and they work in tandem with each other. Like, Garces wants everything checked and Ben Skeen always butts in when he's reffing. Yep. So it's going to be a shocking game for TMO if anything goes wrong. But, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've gone on so many tangents and done this so wrong ways, but I just think it's bullshit that, and Drew Mitchell went off about it at halftime, and I mean, I'm not like we said, we're trying to be for the refs and stuff, but when you're pulling up the game and wasting 2 minutes or 5 minutes looking at miscellaneous stuff, not checking the proper stuff, but calling back stuff that you think is, like, just let the game flow. Like, how else is someone meant to clean someone out? Like, I get that we're trying to protect players, but I think like Semu Karevi said after he got penalised for that is World Rugby needs to start bringing the players into the discussion and saying, hey, like, we know this is a contact sport and we want to protect you and we want to advertise a game that's safe so people actually play it. But the players understand that, but they also, like, World Rugby has to understand that there's a certain way you have to play. Like, you have to be willing to sacrifice that. You're going to get injured.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's no one that plays rugby that doesn't understand the risk that they're going to get injured. And if you're not thinking about that, then I don't know why you're playing. But I mean,
there has to be a meeting somewhere halfway that, like you say, you align with the players and it's like, okay, how far is too far? What is, let's just say that clear out situation, is that worth a penalty or is that just the only circumstance you're allowed to take? Like, is it dangerous? Potentially, but like you said, that's a risk you run by playing the sport or playing any sport. Like, there's always a risk, and you somewhat ignore that risk because you love the sport or you're getting paid to play or whatever the circumstances are. That's just the game you're in line to play. And yeah, there definitely needs to be a lineup rule with, okay, what are the players actually happy with occurring? Like, I'm pretty sure you probably ask any player in the Karevi situation, none of them are going to, be on the ref side of that. Like, especially in a situation like that, I understand they're trying to cut down any head throat contact. And I'm all for that. Like, as long as there's a blanket rule that it's like any contact is fine. But when you have Karevi who hits the chest and as, the player's falling back,
slides up.
It's then sliding up. That's just, it should go off initial contact, not where they eventually end up. And when there's people falling into tackles and, scenarios like that, there needs to be some give with it. Like, especially when someone's slipping into a tackle and then the guy's dropped down to tackle him in a clean way, but he's slipped and then clips him around the ears. And gets like red carded for it. It's
bad.
It's really bad. But, I'm also saying it's a positive, but it's a negative that there's this clean blanket rule of high contact is just yellow or reds and game suspensions. But I think, like you said, there definitely needs to be some contact and, assurance with the players of what they're happy with to be playing in because, this is extreme and, there's always jokes about it. But at what point does it turn into a game of touch as well?
I know.
So where do you go?
And that's the thing I hate how everyone's discussion now, and I think I said it to you or I might have said it on the podcast that we last recorded, is the discussion after the games is going to the refs and how soft the game is. And I don't think the game's got any softer. Like, you just look at the players. These are guys who the height of each position keeps going up. Like, it used to be like 6 foot number 8s. Now your number 8 has to be 6'4" and 120 kilos. And run quick enough to keep up with a flanker, but also be quick enough to chase down a number 9 at least. He has to be able to offload. Like, players are getting more athletic and more skilled. The game is not getting softer. It's just we're getting stricter in areas that we shouldn't be. Like, the biggest example is the Papali tackle against South, where he hits the chest but then slides up and cops the guy in the head, and then he doesn't get a ban for the next week. If you did that in rugby, it'd be a red card and like a 6-week suspension. And I think, like you said, we have to start bracing it on where the impact is. And I think disappointingly, we played like 30 pool games in the World Cup. And then when it got to the last like 5, they really started mitigating it down. Like, instead of giving reds that would have turned into suspensions, what the refs were really trying to do, and actually it was the two Aussie refs, like Angus Gardner and Nick Berry, they were trying to turn a yellow card into just a penalty and a red card into a yellow card, like fighting hard for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was this one with Nick Berry where this guy, I don't know what game he reffed, but anyway, the defender made the tackle, like you said, and the attacking player has dipped to try and get better body height against the defender. And then he slips while he's doing that, and the defender cops him, I think, in the shoulder and then in the head. And Nick Berry was like, well, this guy slipped. He's clearly dipping into contact. I'm not giving him a red, even though there's the clear framework that we have to. Like, I'm mitigating this down to a yellow, which is what, like, and the players were still pissed off about that because at the end of the day, it was an accident. But, I mean, it's so annoying. And I hope, we've got quarterfinals this weekend for the World Cup. I just hope there's nothing stupid that takes away from the game. Like, I think England versus Australia is going to be a hectic matchup because whoever loses goes home. Like, we've got rivalry with England. We knocked them out of the last World Cup. They beat us in 2007 in the final in Australia. And then, we've got Japan is playing South Africa. Wales is playing France. And what's the other game?
New Zealand's versus
Ireland. So, I mean, a couple of crazy games. But if it's dictated by the refs, it's just going to mar the rest of the competition. But I don't know. I keep going on tangent, but who do you want to win this weekend in the finals?
Well, I'm actually just going to quickly just take a really quick step back. And you said it last week about the suspensions and stuff. And the biggest issue is it's like you go into every single game and the talk isn't who's the better team on paper or by performance, who's in form. It's pretty much who's got the suspensions and who's got more starting players than the other. And that sucks because there's huge suspensions being thrown around and, Australia's suffering and every team's pretty much suffering from it at this stage. And a ton of teams that have been knocked out have been hit the heaviest with these suspensions and pretty much didn't have players for the entire pool. So it's a really rough scenario. And once again, it's for safety, but it's not fair in a way either.
No, you're right. It's not. But
yes, games this week, quarterfinals. This is starting to get pretty exciting if we don't get knocked out straight away.
I know.
Where do we stand? So what, do you want to just run through game by game where
I think
the feel as well?
Yes, leave the Australia-England game till last, but we'll start with Japan. Not Japan, sorry. New Zealand-Ireland. Who are you backing and who do you want to win and what do you think of that game?
Every game I'd love to see, every round I should say, I'd love to see New Zealand get knocked out, but it's not happening. And, I'm not in love with Ireland anyway. And, part of me wants a Southern Hemisphere team to win over a Northern Hemisphere. So I'm definitely backing the brothers across the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually going to back New Zealand, which I think is definitely probably the easy call and hope. And, it's only pretty much going to come down to an upset if Ireland win. But, I'd probably rather see New Zealand go through, even though that means we'd be facing them in the next round.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. That's why I want Ireland to win.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same point, like, Ireland hasn't looked that crash hot this World Cup.
No.
And, I mean, it's like if Ireland beat New Zealand, they're going to be gassed up and we're going to have to slog it out against England to win. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, choose your own death. Would you rather get, slashed by the Kiwis again or beat by a rejuvenated Irish squad? I would like to see New Zealand get knocked out for once. I would like to see someone else win the World Cup. I don't know. I know that I think they are going for 3 World Cups in a row, which I think would be a record.
Yes.
So,
I believe so.
I don't know. It's pick your own destiny. I'm not a big fan of Ireland, but...
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's where I stand. It's not like I'm in love with Ireland that I want them to win, compared to Japan or someone like that. But, like you said, you don't want to see New Zealand through the next round and through to the World Cup soon enough.
Because the one thing with New Zealand is like, and I heard this take on the Pats a couple of weeks ago listening to an NFL podcast, is like the Patriots way is so simple that they build off it. Like they have a simple principle and then they change week to week.
Yep.
That's New Zealand. Like you try and watch their games to see how they're playing, and each week is the same but different, and it's hard to draw that.
They have their game plans the exact same, but they just make like judgments and improvements, I guess, and just slight changes depending on their opposition.
Yeah.
And, you know, they play for their opposition, not themselves, because they're capable of playing anyway that any coach would have asked them, because they're just so talented and so brilliant compared to everyone else.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's why I hate New Zealand so much. Hate's a powerful word, but that's why I dislike the All Blacks so much, is just because of that. Like, you look at the Wallabies and we have to give everything every week and play our way. We can't adjust. And then you just watch New Zealand and, you know, one week they go from beating Canada 66-0 with, I don't know, their third team, to the next week they're probably going to, I don't know, knock out Ireland from the World Cup. I think at the end of the day, I think Ireland's big problem in this World Cup has been when Johnny Sexton goes off, when their number 10 goes off, they turn to dog shit. So I think that catches up with them. And I just think, I don't know, the brilliance of New Zealand. I think Beauden Barrett's going to score like 5 tries.
5 tries, you calling it?
Yeah. I'll put a, what is it? Proxy bet or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Proxy, whatever it is.
Don't recommend anyone actually doing that.
Yeah,
but
don't do it.
Good
guys,
luck with that bet.
You know, the odds will be like 50. But yeah, I think New Zealand wins, but I want Ireland to win only because if we go through, it's an easier matchup for us.
Yeah.
But if we lose, I want New Zealand to win because I want a Southern Hemisphere.
Yep, champ. Exactly. I think I'm on the same page. It's, yeah, you want to support Southern Hemisphere, but you don't want to have to verse New Zealand in the next round. But likely that's the case if we go through. All right, and then the next game on schedule, Wales-France. Probably the most disappointing quarterfinal, I reckon. Like, 3, you know, just to quickly run through the games, it's like Australia and England is 2 guys that are just going to slug it out and could be a very exciting game or just an absolute slugfest that just bores everyone to tears. New Zealand, Ireland are 2, like, relatively good teams, like, are up there with the best. It just comes down to the game and what happens. South Africa, Japan
that's electric.
Probably the game I'm most excited for. Like, Japan making it through the quarterfinals, and, you know, with the history of already upsetting the South Africa. Was that in the last World Cup?
Yeah, last World Cup.
Yeah, like, to see something like that happen again on home soil, like, I can't help. I'd probably rather Japan win over Australia in this World Cup just for the sake of, you know, them doing it on their home turf.
Yeah,
and
it would be
after
insane.
everything the president or prime minister, chief in honours has put towards rugby union, like, to actually get the win off the back of it would be so good for them.
Yeah, it would be.
But definitely probably the most exciting game of the weekend, in my opinion. And then, yeah, Wales-France is just dull, and I don't really care who wins.
Neither do I. Wales-France used to be an exciting Six Nations game to watch when I used to put myself through that misery, because, you know, they're they're mid-table teams. They're really
exactly.
They're good, but at the end of the day, once Tier 2 nations catch up, I think Wales and France are going to be the teams that suffer the most. Maybe us because we're so inconsistent. Just because, you know, Wales almost got beat by Fiji. They didn't look that electric against Uruguay. Uruguay ran out of gas in like the 60th minute and just got penalised. I mean, and France, I'm tipping France to win this game.
Yep, okay.
I just, from what I've seen, I don't know, they've got, like it is, France cheats a bit because they get in my opinion, they cheat. They bring in Fijian kids as teenagers and, you know, force them to play rugby, and then they turn into really good outside backs and wingers. But at the end of the day, they should be playing, like, World Rugby should be doing more, but that's a whole other debate. But, like, I just think France has got more in the bag of, Wales doesn't impress me. I'm salty at them.
Wales don't look impressive at all. Like, especially in that Australia game, they didn't actually look good.
No, they didn't.
Like, they were a solid team. They did what they had to, but they didn't look good, where I think France hits them with a bit of flair and it could light up this game and go very against Wales. Or you have the other scenario that Wales just controls them and doesn't allow them to do anything, and it's just a slow slugfest of Wales dragging out the win.
Yeah.
And just being in control the entire game.
The one thing and Wales are Six Nations champions, but the one thing that's going to be interesting to see how good Gatland their coaches because he's coming back to New Zealand to coach the Chiefs, whether he can turn the Chiefs around or whether it's just been the fact that the Six Nations it changes every year who wins.
It's so unpredictable.
It's like and because they play one game each, it's not home and away like the Rugby Championship. It's like you drop a game, it's like the NFL really.
Yeah.
That's what makes it exciting to follow. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see when he comes back whether he's like, I know he's got him playing well, but I don't know. I just don't believe in Wales at all in this game. And I mean, I think the best thing about it though is that whoever wins that game goes on to play Japan or South Africa, who I wouldn't mind winning the World Cup. And I think that is the perfect matchup for either of those teams. Because if Japan has to play Wales or France, they're screaming from the high heavens because that'll just be a game that opens up. And Japan have been controlling those games where it opens up and suddenly it's like, I don't know, 28, 20. Well, like their game against Scotland did. But, I mean, yeah, I'm tipping France. That's only because I don't like Wales. I'm still salty at them for beating us. But
I'd definitely be backing France in that scenario. Pretty much because the same reasons, and definitely you want to see the team that are more the underdogs winning in majority of circumstances, and I feel like that's kind of the fairy tale of this World Cup, that everyone wants to see the underdog win, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, so I definitely think, obviously backing Australia, New Zealand, France, and honestly out of South Africa and Japan, don't really mind.
No, don't care at all.
I want to see if we get knocked out, I'm backing whoever wins out of Japan and South Africa. Like, that's who I want to win.
Yep. I'm 100% in agreement. I think this game is going to be insane because, like, the Japanese outside backs who haven't really shone, like, most of them have had chances in Super Rugby or played on the Sunwolves. Like, they've played for Aussie teams and then gone to the Sunwolves when the Sunwolves started. And, like, they haven't looked that good, but they've just come alive. Like, Kentaro Mashimita, the fullback for Japan, has been insane this World Cup. He's just playing out of his skin, and I think that's the home field advantage for Japan. But I just think, like, I don't know, it's going to be a battle. I really think this game is won and lost in the outside backs of both teams. I think the forward packs for South Africa and for Japan are not inconsistent, but they're prone to making mistakes. If they start making mistakes, they make mistakes the whole game. Yep. But I feel like both teams have a chance of, if one team starts playing dreadful in the forward pack, the other team will. Okay. And then I think that's where it comes out. I think, they're pretty much matched up in the halves. I think in the centres, South Africa has a bit more size, so that might be a bit of an advantage. But I really think it just, how good Japan's outside backs play and whether they can continue to be because what the number 11 for Japan against Scotland, Kenki Fukioka, he had this try where he's like a really short bloke. He's shorter than, Naomi Osaka, like the tennis player.
Yep.
She presented him his player of the game, and he's shorter than her.
Wow.
And he looked like a beast against Scotland. There was this play where I think fly half booted it up. Scotland come down with it, and he's in there, rips it out from the Scottish number 7, turns around, steps a guy and runs 40 metres and scores.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where this game's going to, and that's what's going to be, that's a must-watch game.
Yeah.
It's 8:15, Sunday evening. Everyone with Foxtel, get onto that. No. Because it's going to be insane.
Yep. Should be very, very good. So any last mentions, comments on the World Cup before we are on to the next phase?
Well, yeah, I'm back in Australia. I think the game against Georgia was dreadful. I don't know if you watched it. I think we treated it, like, knowing we were going through since Wales had already beaten Fiji, I think we treated 60 minutes of it, and I think it was a terrible idea. We treated it as a forwards warm-up. We had a different forward pack in, and we were running some different things with them, and they did not look good at all. That really disappointed me. And then all that forced was, because we were obviously focusing on the forwards, Matt Tamua looked dreadful at number 10. He looked shocking. So we needed that game as a touch-up game to, test out how Matt Tamua went and how these other players. I think the only positive I got out of that game was when we actually decided to pass it to our wingers. Marika scored in the 60th minute, like 67th minute. So I think he has to be on the wing for the Wallabies this weekend. I think Pataya has to be in the team. There's rumours that they're going to drop O'Connor from 13 and put Pataya in at 13 and bring Reece Hodge back onto the bench.
Okay.
Which I do not like at all. And apparently drop Haylett Petty from the entire squad and start Kirtley at fullback. In my opinion, against England, I think we start Pattaya at 14, Korobetti at 11, Haylett Petty at fullback because he's an actual fullback. Yeah. And then we have to start James O'Connor and Samu because Samu is, I think you move Pattaya to 12, and I know that's his natural position, but I don't know if he's got a senior enough head yet to cover how defensively liable Samu can be. And particularly against the centres of England, I think we need James O'Connor in there. And he's been nifty with the ball anyway. Like you said, he's impressed me this World Cup. He's not running run meters off the park, and he's not scoring a shit ton of tries, but he's playing like a really good 13 does. You never hear about him. He's the link player that gets the other centre back on the inside, or he's the link player that gets the winger a try. And he's the guy that defends that well. You never hear anything about going past him. So I think, and Australia's forward pack has to show up this weekend. I think if we don't show up in the forwards and actually support everyone else besides Hoops and Poey, hopefully they start, then it's just going to go downhill. But I'm backing the boys. I have full faith in them. And yeah, that's it. I'm done. That's my summary of the World Cup.
I think that's definitely the best lineup we have in the backs currently. And yeah, it's potentially just going to be that game that's one in the forwards and who can just, dominate the other and slowly grind out this game. Like, I probably don't see it. Do you see it being a high scoring game, or?
I don't know. At the end of the day, if the Wallabies forwards show up, I think it does turn into a high, because we've scored points at ease when the forwards have showed up. Yep. I think obviously Uruguay's a bad indication, but and Georgia is too. But against Wales, we scored a shit ton of points and the forwards actually played well, which is why it hurt so bad to lose that game. But yeah, I think if the forwards show up, it does. But if not, it's just going to be a slugfest. It's going to be like England will win 15-12
because we can't score a try.
15-5 or 15-7. Yeah, because we might get one try, or 15-3, and they'll just kick 5 penalty goals. They'll just be used to it. So I want a high scoring game. I don't want to get knocked out when we lose in an un-Australian way.
Yep, absolutely. I'm on the same page. Touch wood.
But NFL, man. Talking about inconsistent play.
Plenty of them showing up and showing their true colours.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys is one of them. How you feeling about the Steelers?
Steelers, it sucks the way we're playing. This whole tap off the back and, a lot of reliance on the running back, but it's working, and we're down to our third string quarterback, so we can't complain about how this is working, like the game style, but we just came off the back of beating the Chargers, who are very injured Chargers. Like, they've got both their safeties out, and their center got injured, Mike Pouncey, prior to the game, and
wow,
they got a few injuries around the place. I think one of their ends is also injured. I
didn't realize their defense was that banged up. I remember now Melvin's out, but I forgot that Joe and James got ruled out before the season started, didn't he?
Yeah.
And are they missing another safety?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I feel like everyone's kind of swept Chargers under the rug of being, should have been Super Bowl, pretty much in the Super Bowl. But they've just suffered so many injuries that it's just scrapped them. And it's the same thing as the Steelers. Like, Chargers haven't lost their quarterbacks, but Steelers have lost quarterbacks, and, there's people that just haven't performed and so on and so forth. But, focusing on other parts of the Steelers, the offense is still clicking. Saddest part for me is that Juju's not getting in on all of it because they're just playing their safe way of football and they can't take those deep shots to Juju. Hopefully Mason warms up by the end of the season and can, but that's unpredictable. But our defense is killing it. Like, with Minka Fitzpatrick coming in, it's completely changed our defense. Between Minka and Devin Bush coming in, who got AFC Defensive Player of the Week, which was pretty sick, just, for the rookie.
Wow.
It's exciting. Like, I think the start of this season, I was talking trash about how bad they were with all these first round picks, and we were still rubbish. But it's only taken one safety to clean up the secondary, and, Devin Bush, the linebacker, coming to his own, and the team's incredible. Like,
yeah.
Tuitt got injured, which hurts us a bit, but I think we'll probably get through it. Like, our pass rush is strong, our run defense has been good, and our secondaries making interceptions and forcing fumbles, which, you can't complain with. Like, we're pretty much winning and keeping in games off the back of our defense, which is an utter surprise for the Steelers.
Yeah, that is surprising. I mean, just going back to the Chargers, like, you look at their schedule now and the teams that they've lost to, that's sort of why you throw them away, because, you know, they beat the Colts in the first week, but then they lose to the Lions, and everyone week 2, Lions had just drawn with Arizona.
Cardinals,
you know, you throw them away, but you look at them now, they're what, like 5-1 or 4-1, or
the
Lions are pretty high.
No, the Lions have dropped off. I think they're 2-2-1.
Oh, damn.
They were pretty much, I think they're 2-2-1, but they were on track. If they beat Green Bay on Monday Night Football, they were top of the table. If they lost, they were bottom of the table. Like, that's just how insane that division is currently.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they lose to the Texans, beat Miami, and then lose to the Broncos, which was surprising, but
yeah,
you know, they're banged up, and lose to Pittsburgh. But another team, like you said, our teams have done a reverse, really. Like, you'll come into the season talking about how the Steelers' defense was not that good, and it was going to have to be the offense that won you games. And I was speaking about how the Cowboys' defense would probably win us games. You look at it now, we have, in the past few weeks, just let me pull it up. It's disgusting. So we lose to the Jets, who were previously, like, defeated.
They
hadn't won a game.
0-4, but I'm not even going to lie, I was definitely rating the Jets in this game. Were you? Yeah, I think everyone had scrapped the Jets because they were 0-4, but it's like Sam Darnold hasn't been there since the first game of the season, who is a big difference. Like, your quarterback coming back is huge. And the moment that happens, it opens Le'Veon Bell up because, you know, without Sam Darnold there, defenses just go, we're going to sit up a bit higher and we're just going to block the run. Because if we take Le'Veon Bell out of the game, they've got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to force them to throw it, they're in a bad situation where you can't do that when Sam Darnold's there. So I didn't expect them to win it. I expected it to be close, though, and really upset Cowboys. But it's been a even bigger upset with catching the W against them.
Yeah, well, the last time we recorded a podcast, the Cowboys were 3-1.
Yeah.
We just lost by 2 points to the Saints, which I was, like, optimistic about.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we go on to lose against Packers and Jets. And like you said, it's just, you know, our defense can't do anything. Our pass rush doesn't look as good. And, like, Demarcus Lawrence was injured coming into the season. We didn't take that into account enough. I think Byron Jones or one of our corners had an injury. Both our corners in the past 3 weeks have at some point in the game been down on the field and had to take a rest for a snap or two because, I don't know, they have knee problems or something. Like, it just seems to be like Hemis, and you fear the worst, and then they get up and they keep playing. And it just, like, the past 2 weeks, the Cowboys have let 17 points in the first 2 quarters without scoring any against Green Bay. And then we let 21 points in the first half against the Jets while scoring 6 points, so 2 field goals.
So you're pretty much the opposite to the Packers, where the Packers are like score big in the first 2 quarters. And I know what the stats are exactly, but they pretty much go out and on average score like 16 points in the first quarter or first half, and then the second half they just like score a couple field goals and that's it. Obviously that changed this week against the Lions, but yeah, you're opposite to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I just saying something about the Cowboys. Like, the defense puts us in a hole that can bring you out of, but the problem is, like, this week against the Jets, Amari, we lose. We've lost our left tackle.
When did Amari go down?
First quarter.
It was the first quarter?
First quarter. So we lose Amari, and the rest of the Cowboys receiving core is terrible. I mean, Gallup's good, but the problem is they're all speed guys. So
yeah, exactly.
Once you put, like, 2, like, even if you, like, just you put 1 decent enough corner on all of them, they're shut out of it because they're smaller bodies. They're not 50-50 ball winners. And, like, our defense is just, we can't make a stop on 3rd down anymore. Like, that used to be what we'd excel at. We'd, you know, maybe give them 6 yards on 1st, stop them on 2nd, and then stop them again on 3rd somehow.
Yep.
But what we're happening is 10, 15, 10-yard play, happy to let it go, 15-yard pass, 2-yard run, 2-yard run, 8-yard run. Like, we're just letting the other teams walk us down and score. And then it gets to the point where, you know, we go down and score. Dak's playing decent. He'll make stupid throw or, like it did with Amari, bounces off his hands. That's an interception, turns the ball over. Our defense gets walked down the other side too. We come back. We can only score a field goal. Defense comes out, gets walked down. Suddenly we're down 21-3. We kick a field goal at the end of the half. And I mean, looking at our schedule coming up, we have the Eagles, then the Giants, then the Vikings, then the Lions, then the Pats. I'm worried. It's rough.
Very scary. It's like you very well could go 1-4 in that next stretch. Beat Giants and that's about it.
And
Philly are a bit unpredictable. You'd probably cause an upset there because Philly are on a little bit of a stretch and I feel like they always fall off.
Yeah.
But that's a bad run.
It is. It's rough. And it's just defense has got to pick itself up because it's putting the Cowboys in situations where we can't use Zeke as much because we're down by 20. We can't run the ball. That takes away the pass option from Dak. And then defenses just go, well, we'll force him to pass. And he's making these passes and then his receivers are either dropping it, not catching it, or...
That's the thing. You just don't have reliable receivers.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've got a couple speedsters and then it's like Randall Cobb, which how's he still in the league? And, even arguably people like he should have put on a Packers shirt and he would have done more just for the sake of he did nothing.
Yeah.
And Amari going down early just hurts. I was cheering when I was looking at your fantasy team and he sat there with 1.5 points or whatever it was.
I know, it was rough.
Yeah, but that hurts the team, and when you have to fall back on no real second wide receiver, that it just takes away the passing game almost, and you can't build off a game when you don't have a passing offense.
You can't. The one thing I've been impressed about, the one thing that I hate is that and like it is in the NFL, when there's a problem with a team, it's the quarterback's fault. Most of the time, if the offense isn't scoring points. And what I'm hate seeing is I wake up every Tuesday morning after the games have been played on a Monday, and then obviously the next day the media has a go at everyone, and it's just everyone's on Dak's back. But he's throwing picks, but I think a large majority of the ones he's thrown this season are the fault of his receiver. I still think he's playing. So I'm not trying to say he's a leader or anything, but I think he's getting more flack than what he should because at the end of the day, like, the Cowboys' play calling is still iffy. I'm not going to go on about it. Like, it's all just... Our play calling sucks. Our defense sucks. Dak's being forced to play like, I don't know, Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes. And he's not that. He's not bad. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not...
He's a decent franchise quarterback
yeah.
player, but you need the team to perform outside of him. Like, you can't have Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Wilson, who's been killing it this season, just carry the entire game on their back. Like, Dak's not capable of that.
I think we need to figure out a way to rank quarterbacks by their surroundings. I think Russell Wilson
is number one in the league.
Is the number one in the league. I think you look at his O-line, he doesn't... I don't know, he probably has Pro Bowl guys because they win. But at the end of the day, like, I think his O-line, out of all those guys we just mentioned, is, you know, a drop-off compared to the others.
He's got an O-line that I don't, off the top of my head, don't have any Pro Bowlers and aren't great, but are actually doing really well currently. Right. And, you know, even the Tyler Lockett pass to the corner, like, his O-line gave him so much time. But the fact of the matter is, too, he's so good in the pocket. Like, his little jumps to the side and his little, you know, shakes and dips under players, like, he's so good in the pocket. And then when you release him on outside the pocket, he can still make, like, fantastic catches that are better than people sitting in the pocket when he's on the run. Yeah. Away from, you know, Aaron Donald chasing him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think he's probably the best. Pat Mahomes is elite. No, Pat Mahomes is MVP for a reason. But I just think we also have to take into account that he's had Andy Reid and he's come onto the scene with an elite tight end.
One of the best head coaches, the best tight end, the quickest man in football, and Tyreek Hill pretty much.
And he had Kareem for most of last year too.
Kareem Hunt, like, just was a dream for him because it takes so much pressure off him, because if they just mark Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt can pretty much win the game. Yeah. Like, that's fine, no issues there. Where, you know, Tyreek's been injured, Kareem Hunt's not there, and he's still been playing fantastically. I don't know if you caught the Colts game. that touchdown he got to Byron Pringle was mental. Like, I think the total was he ran like 40 yards on that play. Like, he pretty much...
Was that the one where he danced around and then just pegged it?
Yeah, he pretty much like ran 15 yards back, avoiding contact, ran out to the sideline, and then ran right back up to the gain line, and then threw, an absolute dart out of nowhere. And you look at that and you just like, that's why Patrick Mahomes is the best in the league. And arguably they come back and win that game if it's not for the fact that, his O-line decides to just like trample his ankle. And the moment that happened, he just couldn't move in the pocket. Like,
really?
Yeah. So that obviously really hurt him for that game. And he just didn't have that magic that you saw in the first half. And it meant he was sitting in the pocket trying to make passes, and he just wasn't quite there. Like, he wasn't in his element, having to sit there and taking so much pressure because the O-line isn't great. But, he got Tyreek back this week, and Tyreek scored 2 touchdowns, and, he looked phenomenal as he always does.
I was so annoyed, fantasy football, talking about it. My brother we drafted him Hunter Henry, so the tight end for the Chargers that had been injured, and Tyreek. I don't know if you checked his score, but this week I had going in, I think I started him Eric Ebron, because it said that like all the reports said that Hunter Henry was out, and all the reports said that Tyreek was most likely going to be out. So I was like, I'll start N'Keal Hardman. He'll show up, and Eric Ebron will be fine, because even if like it had been trending towards they might play, but like we look at what Melvin Gordon did when he come back from injury, he's not been performing that well points wise compared to projected. So I was like, I'll take the risk of playing the guys that have been playing and doing well. Tyreek got, what was it? 25
points.
Hunter Henry got 30.
30, yep.
55 points. I sat on my brother's bench because I didn't realize that. But at the end of the day, it's like the games start at 4 o'clock in the morning for us. Like
there's one lot at 1 o'clock and one lot at 4 o'clock, isn't it?
No, I think they start at 4 and then the next lot's 6.
Oh, sorry. I'm actually going off American time.
Oh, yeah.
They're 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. But for us, it's
4 in the morning.
6 or 4 and 7. Yeah.
And, like everyone has
3 and 6.
When you're managing in like America or whatever, you'd be able to make adjustments at 12:58.
The moment before.
And we're dead asleep.
That's the thing. The calls and changes go to the moment the game starts. And, fantasy allows you to change it up until that point where we go 9 nights the night before and literally hope for the best when we wake up.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm sure you're the same. Monday morning, you wake up going, oh, crap, what's the fantasy looking like? Because 50% of the games are out of the way, and it's just like, let's see what I got. And then pretty much I'm at work just continuously checking it, like the updates every few minutes 100%. And seeing where it's at and the last remaining games, what's happening. But at least it was a good week this week. I started off on a positive note with the Pats getting like 28 points.
That was ridiculous, man.
Edelman got another 20 points. So I was up like 50 points on you before it even started. And then
I fought back, but then Amari getting injured robbed me of any chance.
Yeah, there was robbed you of 90 points.
Yeah. No, it was Diggs. It was Diggs going off.
Oh, yeah, Diggs.
Because like you'd had the 50 and you were out beating me like a ton in projected. And then I think the team come back and then Diggs had like 3 receiving touchdowns. I was like, night.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know. The NFL, I mean, I got notes here on what's happened since we last did a podcast. Like, well, the Browns have gone from 2-2 to 2-4.
So how do we feel about the Browns? I think the last podcast we were pretty much like... Actually, the last podcast, they just beat the Ravens, didn't they?
Yeah, they had. That's the problem.
Then they got slogged by the San Francisco 49ers, who are still undefeated and look brilliant. Like, their defense is ridiculous. Like, their running game is unreal. They've had Ujic go down their fullback, who's pretty much the heart of their running game, though, but they still managed to grind out a win against the Rams, and they look phenomenal. But keeping the Browns to 3 and OBJ having a quiet game, and I think OBJ had a higher passer rating than Baker Mayfield that game.
Yeah. It's rough. See, I don't know what to get on with the Browns, because I still have Baker's played, 18 games now? So he's in his second season, but he's like 2 games into a
Yeah, he would have been, I think first game, because I think it was his 5th game of the season, 4th or 5th that he started last year. So, he's pretty much finished his first season now.
Yeah, and there's always the sophomore slump. There's always the second-year slump for players. I mean, that's making an excuse for him. I think he has been woeful. I haven't watched games. I haven't seen, but his stats have looked dreadful.
The issue is he's got no O-line. Like, they traded what was left of it away, and they still are, like... I think there was a 33rd overall pick from 2 years ago, a guard that they just traded to
the Rams.
To the Rams as well, which he's pretty much known as a bust now. But even still, like, there's pieces that I didn't even know existed that are apparently worse than their current players that they're trading away still, and it's a mess. And I think the biggest issue is, and you know, I'm proud to say I didn't fall for the hype, I guess, but Browns just had so much hype, and they were the talk of the entire off season, and they were just the fairy tale storyline coming into the season, and you know they're not as good as all predicted. They've got a horrendous O-line. Baker Mayfield's still trying to get into the groove, which I don't know. He's got the weapons, but he's just got no time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. He's got no time to do anything. He doesn't have time for Jarvis or OBJ to get downfield and throw a huge ball lob pass down the field, and he doesn't really even have time to throw a quick pass away for minimal yards. So it's just a ton of interceptions and incompletions, which, you know, for me as a Steelers fan, I'm glad to see, because, you know, screw the Browns not doing anything after going 1-31 or whatever they did over the 2 seasons. But it sucks to see that, you know, someone with so much promise and a team with so much promise just fall apart the way they have. And, you know, to be fair, their second half of the season schedule is so much easier than their first. Like, I remember when we were looking at, like, schedules and predictions and so on, I can't remember who's exactly in it, but we pretty much sat there like, how can Browns not be a playoff team with this run?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure their second half of the season's like an easy 6-1 or something, just with who they're versing. But we thought they'd be better than what they are currently anyway.
Yeah, they go to the Pats after their bye this week, and then they go Broncos, Bills, Steelers, Miami, Steelers, Bengals, Cardinals, Ravens, Bengals. So it's 50-50 right now, because Pat's defense is really, really good. And then the Broncos got like 7 sacks last week or something.
Yeah, Broncos are funnily enough, when Chris Harris Jr. gets injured. No, was it Chris Harris Jr. that got injured, or Bradley Chubb got injured? Gets injured, one of their best defensive players, and they turn into an elite defense. Like, how does that make sense?
I don't know.
You know, they are one of the best defenses in the league, but for the first 2 games that he was there, they weren't performing, and now he's been injured. They just have come to their own all of a sudden, which is odd, but
it'd be like,
that's NFL.
You look at it like the situation with Drew Brees, where, I don't know, maybe they lose a leader, or they lose one of the guys they know is really good, and then the team just bands around each other like, we have to do this, or like, sometimes I feel like you get complacent, and I feel like that's what the Browns might have done is, you know, you come into the season with Chubb and Jarvis, and you look at what they already did last season with Baker. You add OBJ to that, and you're like, wow. And like you said, everyone spoke about, I bought into the hype. I'm, you know, going to self-scout and say I bought into the hype. But, you know, there's no way that they should be losing as much as they are. Like, I don't know what it is. When I watch them, I don't think it's their defense. I just think, I don't know, for some reason they can't get it done. It's got to be play calling.
I think Freddie Kitchens, you know, once again, another piece to the puzzle is they've got a first-year head coach that has never had a head coach role before, and, I don't know, doesn't really seem that good.
I think the problem for them...
which hurts them, and I think the same thing goes with, like, back to the Dallas Cowboys. Like, they just need a new head coach that actually knows football.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it did come out around the time, I think just a couple of days after that, well, after they played the Jets, or before they played the Jets, the Browns had said that Greg Williams had, like, coached when he was their defensive coordinator, and I think he was their interim head coach last year, had coached to injure players still, Like he wanted the Browns guys to injure because he was the guy that got caught up in Bounty Gate or whatever with the Saints.
Yeah.
You know what that is, eh?
Yeah.
Like where, just for everyone at home, like Saints got caught a couple of years back because Greg Williams was their defensive coordinator and he was paying players extra money if they injured opposition players, which is disgusting. But like I think losing him, even though I don't think a lot of the Browns players liked him, I think having him around someone with as much, because he's obviously been like he has looked like he's going to step up at the Saints. Like he was under Sean Payton, you know, he knows what he's doing. And you look at the Jets defense this year, and you know Jamal Adams is feasting. They're leaking a lot of points, but at the end of the day, like, I feel like the NFL is so hard to judge just off stats. Like, you can have a team score 40 like the Browns did, and it's not as reflective of how well their offense did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think especially like going back to the Jets, it's a situation of they haven't had a quarterback to lead them, and it means, you know,
all the pressure,
70% of the game, the defense are on the field, and it doesn't matter how good your defense is. They slowly tire, and by the end of the game, they just fall apart and end up conceding the 40 points, like you said.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. I think the Browns have to figure out what their identity is, and I think that's the problem with the first-year head coach is I don't think he knows what he wants to do. I've seen people say that like there's games where he'll not run any trick plays like he did last year. Like he ran a lot of trick plays that made the Browns, you know, as special as they did. And he'll come out, first play of the game is a trick play, and then next week won't run any at all. Like he seems to be jumping and jittering. I think he just needs to, like we say with what the Pats do, like all the good teams do, is figure out what you want to be and then build on that. And I think, you know, like it is, the O-line is terrible. And like you said, Baker doesn't have time to dial up and use Jarvis and OBJ in the best way that they can. Like he doesn't have time for them to run
and 50 I feel like
yards down the field.
Baker is nowhere near as good as everyone expected, like outside the pocket. Like he struggles inside the pocket, like avoiding contact. And the moment he steps outside the pocket, it's pretty much an incompletion. Because I don't know, I feel like everyone just expects now with all these young guys that they're capable of that. And I think I can't remember if we've discussed this on the podcast or not, but same thing happened with like Dwayne Haskins. Like everyone assumes he can run because he's a young black quarterback, which isn't the case. He's a fantastic pocket passer, but get him outside and he doesn't want to go outside. Like that's the truth of it. But yeah, there's a lot of teams that are just, you know, almost already throwing in the towel, and it's just confusing with where they're at. Like onto the back of that, like, you know, let's kind of segue a little bit into our predictions at times of a few weeks ago before the season started. And my pick for up there for the Super Bowl was the Atlanta Falcons, who are currently sitting at 1-5.
Yeah.
Which is off the back of the fact that I think everyone's realizing they just can't get a decent head coach in that team. Like they've had bad head coach after another poor head coach after another one, which is just really hurting because they have all the right people in place to dominate. Like offense is killing it, but their defense is horrible. And the biggest issue is that they've got, like the Chargers, they've got so many injuries occurring again. And, you know, everyone expected a bit of regression after so many injuries last season that they would hopefully be a relatively healthy team this year. And it's just not the case whatsoever. And their defense is just giving up so many points to a monumental level. Like, recently, 34 points to the Cardinals, 53 points to the Texans, 24 to the Titans, who are horrendous in offense, and their quarterback at the time's currently dropped. Mariota's been dropped for Tannehill, which, my word.
Ridiculous. I mean, it's good for fantasy for me because I've got Matt Ryan, so he has to lead the comeback. But, I mean, yeah, it's just Falcons have been disappointing. I'm disappointed in the Rams too.
Yep. I mean, the Rams are... I don't know if they're underperforming. Like, I'm just going to quickly try and find it. I don't know. You continue, though.
I think the problem with the Falcons is that Dan Quinn was disappointed with their defense last year, and since he's a defender-minded coach, said, well, I'm not taking on a defensive coordinator. I don't know if he's running as offensive coordinator too. I don't know if he's calling plays both ways, but I hope he's not. But if he is, he's gone after the end of this year. I don't think there's any way he can resurrect.
No chance.
What he's done. But I think, I don't know what's going on with the Falcons, because you look at it, Matt Ryan's putting up yards. I don't know if Julio's, but anyway, the receivers are doing good. Devontae Freeman's playing decent enough. At some point,
Devontae Freeman doesn't really have the rushing game going. He's starting to pick it up now, but he's just really good at dumping the ball off and getting passing yards and stuff, which once again adds to the passing game and doesn't really hurt. It's good for play action. So
it's crazy how important a good defense has become in the NFL. In a way, I used to be able to follow the Cowboys, and we had an all right defense, and we had Zeke and Dak and a decent, and Dez and Jason Witten. It was an all right offense, but you could do something with it. With the way that all the new flags are and how hard defense is reffed, you need a really good defense to overcome all the penalties, because teams are just getting penalized out of it. And I think I haven't watched too many Falcons games or followed too closely, but the defense has just been terrible. Like you said, to give up that many points to the Titans, whose QB slaughtered them, but he's now been dropped.
And hasn't looked good in any other game besides that one, pretty much. And then following on to the Rams, Rams started off well, a tight win against the Panthers, who have looked relatively good. Obviously, that was against an injured Cam Newton, and now since Kyle Allen's come in, they're undefeated. And then, a win against the Saints where Drew Brees went down, so that's an easy win. The win against the Cleveland Browns, but since then, so that's 3-0, and now they're 3-3. The game against the Buccaneers, which was just a mess, Buccaneers just apparently the first quarter, they scored 21 points on them in the first quarter or something like that.
I'll pull it up, but I think that was it.
Every time Sean McVay, it was 28 points in the first half. It was a relatively, I don't know, it was a bit of a mixed bag, that game overall, but Tampa Bay just put huge points on to start with, and every time Jared Goff got them into a situation that they started to come back, something just went wrong. And it was ridiculous. And then you look at the Seahawks game 29-30, where Russell Wilson just obliterated the game and carried his team. And then but even you look, Jared Goff grinds them down to field goal range, gets them in a great position, and then Zerline just misses the kick that loses them the game. So that's not off the back of their offense. And then San Fran, who's still undefeated, just dominated them. The biggest issue with the Rams, and I think it comes back to this staple thing that we're saying and seems to be the same across the league, is it's all down to the defense. The Rams defense hasn't been what it was last year.
No.
Donald, at times Aaron Donald's got 3 men guarding him, which is beyond ridiculous, but he isn't putting on the pressure that he was last year. And Dante Fowler's good at times, but he's very hit and miss with games. It's a little bit all over the place, and they're suffering from a lot of injuries too. Their offensive line's fallen apart.
Yeah,
just because the injuries that they're trading.
Secondary too.
Yeah, they've just suffered so many injuries all over the place, and even Brandon Cooks went down for part of the Seattle game, and I think that's their biggest issue, and the defense just isn't able to carry them currently. But that could all change with a huge trade for the Rams.
Yeah, the Jalen Ramsey thing, it's interesting. I think a lot of what you said is I think the Rams are banged up. I don't think they're underperforming yet. I don't think it's, all panic to battle stations. What are they? Are they 2-2 or 2-3 or?
They're 3-3. The biggest issue is that, I feel is the reason why they're up in arms is the fact that you got the 49ers who are 5-0 and the Seattle Seahawks that are 5-1 in their division.
Have you seen just side note, 49ers have had a tough schedule so far, haven't they?
At times, but I think in hindsight, not really.
Yeah, right. Anyway,
you start off with Tampa Bay, then Bengals, then Pittsburgh, who is without Big Ben, obviously, and then pretty much it came down to James Conner fumbled it on the 10-yard line, which put them over for the last touchdown, San Fran, which won them the game. So I'm a bit dirty on that one. Then cleaned up the Browns, and then had a bye week And then the Rams.
Yeah. Yeah, you say what you were going to say. I was just going to say the San Fran schedule coming up is Washington, Panthers, Cardinals, Seahawks, Cardinals. So I think there's been a lot of defensive takeaways for San Fran, and I think that's good. The defense is shining, but also like when a large amount of your points is coming from your defense and your offense, like they might not have to, but Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't looked that good at quarterback this year.
Jimmy G doesn't look good, and I think that also comes down to the fact that the wide receivers aren't great.
Yeah,
like
they've got a lot
solid
of
wide receivers like Marquise Goodwin and Dante Pettis. Like they're all right receivers, but they really need that number one.
Yeah,
but just isn't the case. But Kyle Shanahan loves the run, and that's what he goes off anyway. So it's still working.
I think that's the problem with the Rams too. Just to get back to them, and I think, Gurley being injured and them resting him clearly for playoffs, I don't know when they'll pull the trigger and let him go. I think once this contract ends,
You think they just release him from this point?
I don't like doing it because this is a guy who's a really good player and he got injured playing football, and I feel like you should look out for him. But at the same time, like the Rams are losing games because their run game isn't as good. I wouldn't, not just that, but you know what I mean? Like it's affecting their offense. Like Cup and stuff are still doing well, but it takes away a weapon from Jared Goff, who we know is same as Dak. Like he's inconsistent and he's around the middle.
He's just a very systematic quarterback.
Yeah, and I hope Jalen Ramsey coming in. This is a take. I think I got it from Lefko Show or whatever, but I hope Jalen Ramsey coming in gives his defensive line, more time to get after the quarterback.
Yep.
And I think losing Ndamukong Suh was massive for the Rams. I knew they couldn't keep him, but at the same time, a lot of the way that offenses plan for defensive line is off reputation. Like, it's like Aaron Donald is a beast. We have to triple team him or double team him. Khalil Mack is a beast. We have to triple team or double team him. You look at Ndamukong Suh, he's had years where he's had to be... Like, he's a guy who can beat a guy one-on-one, so you have to be aware for that double. And then that means you can't commit 3 to Aaron Donald.
Yep, exactly.
And you can only commit 2, and Aaron Donald is that much of a beast that he can beat that. But then you can't leave... But if it just creates... And I don't know who else is rushing or who else is putting pressure on the quarterback for the Rams.
Dante Fowler's usually the other one on the right end.
Right.
Usually, but even still, it's like,
yeah. He's not really known as one of the...
No, he's
a good player. Dante Fowler
he's the first round of 2 or 3 years ago or something. Like, he's still a young guy who's coming into it.
So, like you said, I think I'm really hoping the Ramsey trade completely turns their season around, because that is going to be... I think that is, one of the best right now looking at it, results-wise and scores-wise and everything. It's going to be one of the best teams in football. I mean, divisions in football, sorry, I apologize.
Should be. Oh, division, yeah.
Like, Seahawks, they have Cardinals to bash up on, which sucks, but they have the Cardinals to bash up on. But just Seahawks, San Fran, and Rams, like, we could be looking at, I don't know if this is ludicrous, but if Ramsey has a big enough impact, we could be looking at 2 wild cards. I genuinely believe from that.
The teams are at the quality of that. The teams are at that quality.
Yep. And
it's just where everyone else performs. But the thing is, it's like you look at the Green Bay division, like the NFC North, and it's like you currently have... No one has a losing record as well. Like Green Bay's 5-1, Minnesota's 4-2, Chicago's 3-2, and then Detroit's 2-1. It's kind of like Cowboys division, the NFC East is kind of like the beating ground. It's like Washington and Giants are terrible, and then Eagles and Cowboys are far too inconsistent. And then the NFC South, it's like Falcons aren't performing, which, we assumed we're going to have 2 wild cards out of, and Saints are looking like Super Bowl contenders. The fact that they're performing so well without Drew Brees. And I think, like you said earlier on, it's the fact that they're all banding together because their key player in Drew Brees isn't there to make a play. Everyone's just bound together and working hard for each other, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton was 0-2, and then Kyle Allen's come in and is now 4-2. Like, I don't know. It's a mixed bag for NFL, but it is every year. So
I think
it's only 6 weeks in.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. This, like, us missing 2 weeks of the pod is a bit. I apologise because I feel like this has been a bit scattered with us just saying what we think. But at the end of the day, there's just been so much go on and so much change that it's hard when you're not tracking it week to week. But
yeah,
like, yeah, the NFC is crazy. Like, I feel, when would you bring Breeze back? Because looking at their next 5 games, they go to Chicago, they have the Cards and the Falcons at home, they go to Tampa, and then they have Panthers at home. I'm not playing, like, until he's ready. I don't think he's meant to be ready until, I don't know, week 8 at the earliest.
Yeah, that's what I think I've heard.
But do you bring him back against, who are they playing? The Cardinals? Or do you just let...
I know, do you give him the time to warm up, or do you just let him continue to rest? Because honestly...
I'd rest him, bro, honestly.
I think the truth is you come down to Chicago this week, which should be a hard game on paper. I don't think it will be. I think they're actually going to probably tear apart this Bears team.
Really?
Like, Bears are awful in offense. They just went and lost to the Raiders.
Oh, yeah. Raiders aren't that bad, though. But
I know Dad's sick of me talking trash, but like they've been really strong at parts. But should they be capable of beating the Bears?
Probably not.
No.
But it's the same thing that we always talk about is like, if you're a team where your defense gets their offense off the field quick enough,
exactly,
and then your offense drags down their defense, it catches up to you.
And that's exactly what's happened. The fact that, you know, they've got one of the best defenses in the league in Bears, but Trubisky can't stay on the field to save himself and has been injured, which is a benefit. And I can't even remember what the name of their backup, but
Chase
Daniels is not that much better or that much worse. So their offense is just terrible, and Raiders have such a physical defense that just dominated them, and then, you know, it leaves room for Derek Carr to eventually grind out a game, and Josh Jacobs probably had the game of his career this far.
Yeah.
So
he
was great, and it all came together really well for him.
He's a beast, that Josh Jacobs. I think the Raiders' front four is easily one of the best. I think it's one of the best this year. I don't know how it's performing stats-wise, but I think every time I've watched them, like opening play against Minnesota, they sacked Kirk Cousins. I know it was week 2, but I just think their front four is so good against the run and the pass that it's just, I don't know. So week 6 is such a weird week because the teams are starting to form, but we're still not fully into a season to know whether teams are flopping or not.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We wait another 3 weeks. That's when we know who the Browns are this year. Like whether they're a lottery team or whether they're somehow have turned it around and are looking like going to the playoffs. Yeah. So it's hard. It's iffy. I don't have too much else to say. I mean, really, like, it's just been like...
I think we probably just run through a couple more standouts. Like, you know, the Bills are 4-1 currently. Who?
That's insane. I didn't see that coming. I didn't. Like, come on.
No, I expected them to probably finish, like, even. I think some of the games they've won were, you know, Titans, Bengals, Giants, Jets. I guess at the end of the day, they haven't had the hardest of schedules thus far. But, you know, they're backing onto Miami, which I think is it's the first game against Miami this week. And then, you know, you go to Philly, which... at Buffalo versus Philly, which, you know, Philly isn't performing that highly, you can only see. And then, like, they're at home again to Redskins, like, and then Browns, and then Miami again. Like, they just have an easy schedule. Like, that division has an easy schedule.
Yeah.
Because they verse Miami twice. Like, whether you're the Jets, Bills, or Pats, you verse Miami twice. You get a game against the Redskins and the Giants, which, you know, you play well. You've got 4 games cleaned up relatively easy. Then, you know, for the Pats and the Bills, Jets aren't the hardest opponents. That's 6 games, and you only have to go 50-50 the rest of the season, and you're in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's been the situation for the Pats for the last 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight's crazy.
Yeah. So Bills have been great, and, you know, it's been unlucky for Jets that Sam Darnold's been out with mono. That's really hurt them this season.
I think the Jets would be doing what the Bills are doing right now if Darnold didn't get kissing disease like a teenager.
Yes, good old kissing disease too.
Mono. But, I mean, yeah.
You know, they've also had a probably much harder run. Like, they've already versed the Browns, the Pats, Philadelphia, and the Cowboys. So, you know, it's a little bit different. They've got their better run of the schedule at the back end of the season.
Yeah.
For Le'Veon Bell to come right for fantasy. But then, who else is kind of stand out? Chiefs, 2 games lost in a row after going 4-0.
Oh, yeah.
What are the feelers there?
I mean, I think it comes down to their defense again. I mean, Pat Mahomes
is terrible.
It is. It's terrible.
Terrible.
It goes back to the principle of what the NFL is nowadays. If your defense can get their offense off the field quick enough, your offense can drag it out against. And the Chiefs, like we said, the Chiefs' problem, the weirdest problem in the world, is that they're too explosive in offense. Like, they'll have their defense get dragged out. Maybe their defense somehow stops or gets a field goal, and then Pat Mahomes goes out there and in 30 seconds he's throwing an 88-yard pass, and the defense is like, fuck.
We're back again.
We're going to do all this again, man. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know what happened against the Colts. I've got to watch that game because I really don't know what happened.
That was just a dominant performance from the Colts.
Really? Did they just run the ball? Or
Colts just ran the ball, grinded the game out, and did a fantastic job of actually shutting down the Chiefs. But I think a lot of it came down to the fact that Mahomes had been trampled on his ankle.
Is his ankle right now, or is he still injured?
I haven't actually watched the most recent game against the Texans, but from what I've heard, he didn't look 100%, but he was relatively good.
Right. That was surprising, though.
Colts just had a fantastic game plan. Frank Reich is a great head coach and really dominated it there.
Yeah.
And then to back onto Texans are one of the few teams that can actually shoot out with the Chiefs.
Texans' defense, just so everyone knows, is terrible. Like, it should really be. I mean,
it's not great. Not great.
It's not like Falcons bad yet, but I mean, yeah, like you said, like, I think everyone will be panicking, or I don't know if anyone actually is, but anyone who is panicking about the Chiefs shouldn't be, because they got grounded out on defense by the Colts, and then they go and face Deshaun Watson, who's showing why he was one of the best college quarterbacks and why he was such a top pick. I think him and Mahomes, touch wood, I hope they're here to stay, and I think they're here to stay as 2 of the most elite quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, like that's going to be the competition for a long time. And they've got so much flair, they've got so much firepower, like it's ridiculous. And, you know, Texans only won off the back of Deshaun Watson magic with 2 rushing touchdowns, and, you know, is just fantastic in all regards.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know where to go. And yeah, definitely as the Chiefs, don't panic, because at the end of the day, your biggest competition was the Chargers, and they're 2-4 and banged up as hell.
Yeah.
The Broncos aren't going to put pressure on. Oakland Raiders are still sitting positive on 3-2, but
I think they're wild card at best, but I don't know if they squeeze it in the AFC.
They're wild card at best, but I still don't think they make it. Like, it kind of seems like Bills are shaping up to squeeze into the wild card, which I think is fair enough. And it's truly just who decides to bounce back, which it could be the Raiders. Like, you know, currently them and Colts are the only 2 teams on like 3-2. The rest are 2-4, which, you know, there's potential there. Colts could end up coming through really well because they're brilliantly managed and got great game plans and stuff. So you could see them squeeze in. But if Raiders just keep putting together performances like this, and, you know, everyone's hyped, like John Gruden was pretty much just like, this is the greatest win of my career anyway, beating the Bears in London. So, you know, if they just keep this streak rolling, there's no reason why they can't be a wild card team.
Exactly.
But, you know, also looking, next game's away to Green Bay.
That'll be the test. That'll be the show
where they're really at, but
yep.
Don't rate them there. Like, I'd go against them there. Then away to Texans.
Ooh.
Could you bash up their offense?
No,
maybe.
But I think the fact is Derek Carr and that offense might be able to keep the Texans defense out there long enough that it doesn't turn into a shootout.
That's potentially the case, but I feel like I look at, can anyone really mark DeAndre Hopkins? Although he's been very quiet this season. Like,
I know that the Texans will probably most likely like run over the Raiders defense. Not bad, but they probably will beat them.
Yeah.
But I just think Derek Carr, if he manages the game like he has, and Josh Jacobs continues to be a good enough running back that he can just grind out the clock, I think maybe it's really hard to rely on that to keep you in the game. But
absolutely, I think everything falls back on Josh Jacobs. Like, I think Derek Carr without Josh Jacobs isn't good, but when Josh Jacobs is able to run as much as he is, and not carry the team, but do everything right. It's making it easy.
And Darren Waller too, for the tight end for the Raiders.
Just reliable. That's the biggest thing. The fact that they're playing well and they don't even have a decent receiver option. Like, Darren Waller isn't that good, but he's just a safe tight end that Derek Carr can keep throwing his 10-yard passes to. And
exactly.
Is phenomenal just because tight end mismatch.
Yeah.
And outside of that, like, they got Terrell Williams, who had a game out, but I think they still won the game he was out. I think that was the Bears game.
Yeah, that was the Bears game.
And, they still won that. And, just credit to the team for managing to bounce back after, the Antonio Brown kerfuffle and, the up and downs of people's expectations for him. They've managed to come through, and they're sitting on a positive record. If it lasts, who knows? But
yeah, exactly.
Once again, the NFL's unpredictable. Because, I'm just going to quickly shout through. Then it's like home to Detroit Lions, which is probably a 50-50 game. Then it's home Chargers, Bengals, and then away to Jets, which, they could clinch 3 wins there, or they could also lose 3 games, potentially. So, I think it's definitely in Raiders' control of whether they decide to come through and grow into the team that their fans want them to be, or they fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of people thought they would, but they're still yet to do.
It's going to be interesting. I think, I'm going to wait another 3 weeks before 3 weeks will be, is that halfway in the season? No, 2 weeks.
Just passed.
End of week 8, we'll do another prediction, look at our ones before the season and figure out who we think's going to go where, because it's shaping up, but it's still hard to pick because, there's still 2 games to go before midway through the season. I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be disappointed if the Browns don't make the playoffs.
I will be stoked.
I know you'd probably be cheering as a Steelers fan, but it's just going to suck because all the media shit is just going to be on the Browns. And, they have expectations to live up to. That's what happens, but... everything that will be blamed will be actually outside of the factors for them losing.
My opinion of the Browns, obviously they're division rivals, which, I don't necessarily like them, but I don't think they're a bad team. I think OBJ is fantastic. I think Jarvis Landry is severely underrated, and Baker Mayfield, I'd love to see grow into what can be, but I just didn't like the hype that they were getting because they'd done nothing to deserve it.
Yeah.
There was a reason for the hype, but they just hadn't proven it yet, which hurt them severely. They didn't deserve that hype, and it was coming through that they could be that side that everyone thought, but it was also could go the way that it's gone so far. So I think that second half of the season's really going to shape them up and could actually drive them through to the playoffs. If they go that 6-1 or whatever, we think they potentially could go into the playoffs as a wild card team, continue to upset whoever it is they're versing. At this point, you'd probably be predicting they'd verse Texans or Ravens pretty much, which, if your defense can shape up, you can probably beat either of those teams.
Ravens defense looks terrible, but go on.
That's another one. Their defense is looking a lot worse than predicted, but, in the Rams trade, situation with Ramsey, it meant they got rid of Marcus Peters, and Ravens have picked them up, which I think is definitely an improvement, but Marcus Peters isn't as good as what he should be.
Nah, he's not. I don't know. It's too hard to predict. My brain's fried.
I can't believe we tried to predict at the start of the season. It makes sense, but it's just silly.
It was fun.
You just embarrass yourself. Falcons are still coming back for the Super Bowl, I swear.
No, they actually won't. I was going to say they could, but no, fam.
No, their defense is in trade.
Do you reckon Falcons should just tank? They really should. Like, what's the point of them fighting? And they'll probably get somewhere back near 500. Like, what is the point? They don't get anything valuable out of that. Just tank and, I don't know, trade down and get 2 good corners or something. You losers. Like, Cowboys too. If we don't make playoffs, just who gives a shit? Just tank. I don't know.
That's the thing. It's like, where do you sit and where's your opinion? And I was like, I feel like I do this every week as a Steelers fan. It's like, let's just tank. And then it's like, we gave up our first round pick. Let's not tank because screw the Dolphins.
Yeah, true. I forgot that. I don't think the Cowboys have first round picks because of the Amari trade. So never mind.
They still not have their first round pick.
Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember the specifics.
Because that was only a first or a second round.
Oh, was it? Damn, we got him for chips. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just the NBA mentality is like, once the season gets once you get to like this stage in the NBA season, like 6-7 weeks in, if you're down 20 games, you're not coming back. So it's just easy to tank. But NFL, it's like you said, Browns could go 4-2 and suddenly they're looking like a playoff team again. They go 2-4. Like, there's so much space for all the teams to turn around. But, I mean, did you have any other thoughts on the NBA? Not NBA, sorry, NFL. My bad.
The NFL, what?
There's not too much else to say, really.
I think we've summarised a lot of the ups and downs of the NFL this far, and I think a big thing is obviously we'll keep going about it each week and what changes and things like that. But I think the truth is you wait till halfway through the season when teams have started to show their true colours, and
then the third quarter you wait for the boost once you get to 12 games.
Yep, exactly. So it's a mixed bag right now, and that's it. But just by the way, Cowboys do have their first round pick.
Tank. Let's tank. Let's get another. I don't know. I'm not talking about the Cowboys again. I spent 15 minutes talking about them. I'm not putting everyone through that pain. Like, we don't need anyone. We have DeMarcus Lawrence. We have a good edge rusher. We need a defensive tackle. That's what we need. We need a good defensive tackle. So,
trade away the first round pick for a good one.
Yep. Get in Aaron Donald. I heard he's on the market.
Rams are done with him.
I heard he wants out for just one first round pick. But, I mean, I don't know. Did you see that the Socceroos won 7-1 the other night?
7-1?
Last night,
Was that against China?
Chinese Tapai. Yeah.
Chinese Tapai.
Yep. I'd see. This is a problem. You know what? We're like an hour 45. Let's just.
You said 2 hour podcast.
Let's throw it away to chaos for the next 15 minutes.
You guys missed out on a podcast last week, and it was meant to be a good catch up opportunity for you guys, but
this has been chaos.
Welcome to a 3 hour podcast. Hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah. Holy shit, 3 hours would be insane. No, like, what are we gonna do? This is thinking out loud. What is everyone gonna think when Rugby World Cup ends and there's no league, there's no union? I don't think either of us are that into cricket that we can sit here and analyse it for half an hour. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. I don't know enough. I'd just be like, well, Steve Smith got a century, shot bala. Like, I mean, I don't know. Do we just turn into an NFL podcast? I think we have to. We don't have...
NFL/NBA. Yeah. If you guys have any shouts for that...
We will watch...
What you guys want us to talk about or whatever, like...
We could even just take it down a route of, like, I don't know if everyone... I'm not going to say fans. We have 12 weekly... No, I'm going to say fans. I don't know if the fans would want to hear us, I don't know, talk about, I don't know, personal shit, you know what I mean? Like...
We're going to become... you certainly
like
could.
Just do like dumb questions and stuff to fill in space because I don't...
Guys, send us some dumb questions.
Send us, like, I don't know, favourite nightclub. Favourite...
Birdies.
Favourite microphone speaker. Just, I don't know. Like,
get to know us.
Yeah, but
I just want to quickly cut you off before
I send into more chaos, please.
Who knows what happens? Just thought I'd shout out the Major League Baseball too, because they're currently in playoffs.
I seen the Yankees. The Yankees are in the finals, aren't they? Or like semis?
Nah, they're still on the way there. They're currently 2-1 down to the Astros, who, one of the best teams. Nationals have already made it through after upsetting the Dodgers, which was huge. Came down to the final game, upset them. They're already through to the next round.
That was all over my Twitter feed, man. The dude that messed up, I don't even know what his name was. Kerensky or something
but you knew his name by the end of it.
Yeah, I did. Like, he got abused. I follow a lot of Lakers fans on Twitter, and they're all Dodgers fans, obviously, and they were just going off at him. I felt really bad for the bloke because he's sitting in the dugout. Like, did you see him? He was sitting there looking like he was about to cry. I was like, I don't know what you did, bro, but I feel for you. Like, everyone is like sick of you. I feel for you.
But yeah, so pretty much the World Series is shaping up. Nationals already there, and and then Yankees or Astros there, which I'd predict Yankees or Astros to win that, whoever makes it there, but shall be interesting.
Yankees and Astros are in the NCLS. Is that what the playoff thing is called?
I think it's just
NC and NLS.
It's just the American League and the
National League. Right, that one. So who's in the finals, semis for the American League then?
So that's the American League, Yankees and Astros. And then the National League, the Nationals and Cardinals were there, but Nationals won 3-0, so they're already done.
So they're in the whatchamacallit,
the World Series. And just 4-0 just to cover the corners. They won 4-0.
Did they sweep
3-0? Yeah, they swept them.
Wow, that's crazy. Are you going to follow the NBA this year, out of curiosity?
I'm going to have to.
Are you going to have... You don't have to if you don't want to.
I'm still yet to see who I support. Shout out your teams, guys, and let me know who is worth supporting.
Definitely the New York Knicks. Shout out Samuel. They're a great team, the Knicks. Historic franchise. Been performing elite levels.
How'd they go with that first round draft pick? The
RJ
first
Barrett
overall that they were supposed to have.
Oh, man.
Zion Williamson's performing well for him.
For that. Bro, they didn't get the first round draft pick, and then their plan to get KD and Kyrie falls apart because they don't have that. They have and now it's RJ Barrett. And did you see what happened the other day in the game, Marcus Morris, man? What he did with the basketball?
Nah, I missed that.
It was third quarter. He'd already put up 17 points. I think he just wanted out of a preseason game that was meaningless. He the defender's defending him real hard, and he just looks at him and then smashes the ball on this guy's forehead. That's right. He catches the pass, and then the guy rushes up, and he goes like that, clocks him with an elbow, and then this guy keeps defending hard because the refs didn't call a foul somehow, and he just smashes the ball over this guy's forehead and then gets ejected. Man, NBA is crazy, and it's actually going to be so good this year. Don't follow the Warriors. That's a cop-out.
Yeah. I know. I was a big AD fan.
Yeah.
But, I was kind of a Pelicans fan when they had DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, but they've both left, and I'm not really on this Zion Williamson grind. I think he's great, but don't really want to...
Fair shout. Don't risk it on
a huge rebuild coming. I didn't support them. I support them because they're players, and I feel like that's what I'm going to do in NBA. I'm going to support players, not teams.
Support the Pacers. Indiana
Pacers.
Victor Oladipo is the man.
The man on a mission.
NBA starts next week. Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's back. It's so good.
So that's coming to the podcast side.
I think the only way we can do the NBA, genuinely do it just defiance, is either every 2 weeks or every month. And I think month is better because it's if you go week to week, you might see the Lakers have a slump and they lose 3 games and you're like, oh, panic stations. And this is what makes the NBA so marketable, is because you can get on First Take when the Lakers are 12-10 and they go on a 2-game losing streak to the Warriors and the Clippers, and everyone could be like, these guys are trash. And then, it's I think we have to do it every maybe fortnight if we have to, if we need content. But I think, just to preview that, not going to do it. I actually haven't looked at it. I think it's the one thing that I love about this NBA season is I'm going into it not knowing who's going to win. I think the Clippers...
there's actually been finally a spin up that it's Golden State have finally lost some momentum. And even though they didn't win it last year to the Raptors, which was a bit of a shock.
That was a shock, really. But also, not really, because, like, KD got injured.
Yeah.
And then I think Iguodala got injured. That's the one thing I love about basketball is how much your bench means and how much one player means in the starting line. It's insane. But, I mean, literally, Lakers have to win this year, have to make it to the finals. No, actually, the Lakers have to win this year. I think LeBron's legacy is tarnished.
Wow.
I genuinely reckon it is. Like, you can't handpick the Lakers after you're on a Cleveland Cavs team that you destroyed. I'm a bit anti-LeBron because of his comments about China recently. But you can't go from a team where you handpicked your teammates to picking the Lakers, have the teammates that are younger guys like Lonzo and Brennan Ingram, like, blame them, even though there was injuries all through the roster that cost us last year, get them traded away to bring in Anthony Davis, who's probably the best big man in the league right now, and then not do anything with that. That's on you, LeBron, bro. But I'm just annoyed at him because of that shit with China, but I'm not going to get into that.
I think we probably wrap it up. We're pretty much about to hit that 2-hour mark.
So,
and guys,
everyone from Hong Kong,
if you made it this far, congratulations to you. But like the last 30 minutes, waste of your time. Apologies.
Just a statement for funding purposes. Love you, China. If we ever need sponsors,
China.
I'm not going to say anything in case it jeopardizes the bank. I'm going to cut all this out. This is getting cut, but
ooh, it's all gone.
It's all gone. Not all of it, but just this last 5 minutes where I butchered.
All right, but anyway, you want to wrap us up?
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks everyone. This is podcast number 9.
Podcast 9, is it?
Yes, it is. So we will see you next week. Ciao.
Thanks. Bye.